excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited because I'm eager to share my approach to successfully doing career planning with you. So, and I really think this approach can change your life for the better. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'll talk a little bit about what Hendra mentioned. So I've worked in public and private sectors, in manufacturing, in hospitality, in government, and I've even worked as a wedding florist. Hendra said I have a degree in something completely unrelated to what I do now, which is economics. And I have interviewed hundreds of candidates, hired dozens, and I've managed hundreds of millions of dollars and managed several teams of unionized and non-unionized employees. I have 2 kids, a wife, a mortgage, and I love what I do and where I do it. But it wasn't always this way. Thank you, Hendra. I was supposed to be underemployed, financially overburdened, unfulfilled, and unhappy the way many of my high school friends currently are. While at university, I held down 3 part-time jobs to get through supporting myself, and I declared bankruptcy while at school. So this prevented me from getting OSAP, and I didn't complete my educational aspirations. So I was not happy about, I was facing numerous obstacles, and ultimately they culminated in one barrier, and that was I was unhappy with the work I was doing. So I overcame this barrier, but it taught me a lot about motivation, about ambition, and happiness. And what you do for a living, which is most of the hours that you're awake, has a lot to do with those 3 things: motivation, ambition, and happiness. So my main hurdle, I thought, for me was how to get a fulfilling job. And so I'll talk a little bit about the status quo, the standard way of getting a job. This is by far, many people go through this process. What happens usually is you need money. As Nick mentioned, profit is something that drives a lot of us. Maybe you have a lot of debt from school, or maybe you want to buy a fancy sports car. So you look at your current job or your savings and say, this isn't good enough, I need more. So you look in Workopolis or Monster Jobs and find the job you know you're qualified for, you submit your resume, you do this over and over and over, keep lowering your standards, and eventually there's some luck. You didn't strive too high, maybe the location is better or worse, the job is a bit more money, so you're excited when you get the call for an interview. You get to the interview on time, you think you answered all the questions, but you ultimately didn't get the job. You get over it, you treat it as a learning experience, and you begin the process again. So again, this is a very common approach for most people. So I'm here to tell you that there's a different way of achieving your goal. So I'll talk in specifics here. And this is frankly the exciting part. This is you can define your success, a lot of what Nick has mentioned, and you can achieve it. And I really think this is exciting. And it takes about the same amount of time and work, but the end result is that you'll be happier, and you'll ace the interview every single time. Now you may be thinking, yeah, right, buddy. Fact is that if you really want to do what you dream of, if you were to ask the person that is currently doing what you've been dreaming about, so, finding a mentor, about how you can imitate them, 9 out of 10 of us would end up listening to that person's advice. And you'd think that advice is either crazy, it doesn't fit my schedule, or it's just too hard and it requires too much luck, maybe even too much practice. I'm going to improve those odds here by telling you that if you actually do what I'm about to suggest to you, and it's amazingly easy, I can guarantee that you're going to do more work, you're going to do more you'll get substantially better results. And I think that's something that you can live with. happier, or you'll simply get better results in your career. So here are the things I want to walk you through. Number one, how to look for a job. Number two, your resume. And number three, the job interview. So start off with looking for a job. The thing that you want to do is you want to look for something that is completely unattainable, but it's something that you would love to do. Something you can aspire to in the next 10, maybe 20 years. And I can tell you, and I think Nick can tell you as well, you can probably cut that unattainable level in half at least, but we'll go beyond that. Read the requirements of the job. See how that job matches up against what you've accomplished. Note the gaps and write them out as the things that you're going to accomplish in the next 3 to 5 years. And with that in mind, figure out what kind of job will help you get those specific skills. So as an example, let's say you want to work at an oil rig. And to work at the oil rig, you need to learn how to grow a beard, and you need to know how to do deep diving. So neither of which you currently have. And what's stopping you is the deep diving, because of course we know that you can always buy a fake beard, right? So you want to actually look for training and a job that involves deep diving. All of a sudden your hobby of getting a scuba diving certificate gets you in as an instructor, and your job will have purpose to you, regardless of the pay. And you will enjoy doing it because you know what your next move is going to be. Something else to keep in mind when looking for job types. So you may think that your dream job is to be a CEO, but you don't actually know what a CEO does, or what's their day look like. Well, that's okay. So the first step to assessing what your dream job is to understand what motivates you. And yes, it's probably a very good idea to go home and look in the mirror and really think about your passion, the thing that you hate or the thing that you love. But what you want to look at is, it's not just shelter, money, food, or family. We also strive for mastery, autonomy, and purpose in what we do. So it's important to know what you want to be good at. Perhaps you want to be CEO because you've seen how they motivate people and make change happen. So why do you want to motivate people and make change happen? You need to ask yourself at least 5 or 6 times until you get to the core of why you really want to do what you want to do. Maybe you already know you like being good at it. Maybe it's a mastery of a skill that will lead you to achieve great things, so that you can feel like you're contributing to a greater good. You have purpose in life. Or maybe it will give you the freedom and creativity to achieve your ideas. It's the autonomy that many of us seek. With a plan in mind and the correct motivation, you're well on your way to choosing the job that you'll be happy in. So the next thing I want to talk about is how to put together a resume. So what you need to start off with is start with one Word document and just put all of your accomplishments, all of your life skills, everything in there. I'll call this a mega resume. So it's any skill or talent or life or work experience that you have. So, and then maybe this is not your LinkedIn account. This is stuff that people have not seen in a resume. So, you know, if you can tell fuchsia from fascia and focaccia apart, that's a skill. If you're double jointed and you can do a handstand blindfolded, that's a skill. If you've cleaned 2,000 tables in your current job, that's a skill. Maybe you don't really like it, but you're really good at cleaning a bathroom. That is still a skill. So everything goes in here, and this is your template. From now on, you'll use what's in your mega resume to custom build resumes that are specific to the job that you're applying for. So how is this different, you ask? Well, I see resumes all the time. If I have a job, sometimes I will get 200 or 300 applicants applying. And you know, when those resumes come in for the same job or for another job, it's the same resume, I know that these people are not interested in my particular job. So what you will do when you customize your resume, you will focus on trying to build that resume to make it look like you've been built for this particular job and no other. Also, another hint when you're putting stuff on your resume is make sure your resume has accomplishments, not the tasks in your job. Let's say you worked in a medical office. You want to write down that you handled 10,000 medical records confidentially, not that one of your job duties was to do filing. There's a big difference in how you talk about your achievements and accomplishments. Another strategy that works, especially if you don't have a long list of work experience, is to list your resume in terms of the skills that you have. So this is called a skills-based resume, and you can find examples online. Essentially, you just list out the skills rather than the jobs that you worked at. So I'm going to tell you a story about how I got one of my jobs while at university. Now, keep in mind, I'm a shy, introverted guy. I don't really like parties, but I had this crazy aspiration when I moved away to university that I'd be this different extrovert, rocking out at parties. Let's face it, who doesn't want to be the life of the party, right? Well, in retrospect, I can tell you I don't. But yes, I was a little misguided about what happens at parties, but I was determined. And I thought that who are the people that are best in control of a party? Who's the life of the party? The DJ. Yes, I'm going to be a DJ. So after tuition and books, I bought a couple of turntables and some records, and I decided to start trying and try to get a DJ gig. I thought it would be the thing that would get me lots of money, and it would cover the cost of school. I was misguided there as well. But anyway, I submitted an application for a job at one of the local clubs. And the way I did it was I printed my resume on orange paper. So the interviewer confessed to me that he didn't think I knew anything about DJing at all. But he was really curious, whoever was crazy enough to not print a resume on standard white paper. And so the end result was that he gave me a shot at working one of the slowest nights, and I never looked back. I ended up being a DJ at multiple clubs. I had a community radio show, and I was very happy doing that. So the moral of the story here is that you want to stand out. And I'm not saying you should buy orange paper for printing resumes. When I look at resumes, as I mentioned, I'm faced with 200 or 300. The last job I was looking at, I was hiring a manager for a project management office. We had over 500 resumes. And so I look at a resume, and it takes me literally less than a minute to scan through the resume. But what I look for is a few basic pieces. Did the person take the time to write me a CV that speaks to the skill set that I need for that particular job? How are they different from the next person? And that difference could be simply as a really clear, easy to read resume, or it could be a unique skill like a language or a hobby, or perhaps they've never done anything remotely related, but they've clearly outlined to me that they're the right person for the job. So when you're submitting your resume, you want to ask yourself these questions. How am I different from everyone else applying? And do I clearly state that I can do the job through identifying the accomplishments that are related to the job? So to repeat, you want to start with a mega resume. You want to do accomplishments, not tasks. You want to stand out from the crowd by providing a unique resume that's uncluttered and is really easy to read. So the next thing I'm going to talk to you about is the job interview. So the most important part of the job, of getting a job, is the job interview. And off the top, these are no-brainers. Always, always show up a few minutes early, and always dress to impress. I don't care if you have the job guaranteed, or it's a job at a fast food joint, or your Uncle Mo is at the interview panel. You need to be early, and you need to be dressed impeccably. And I've noticed many of you are dressed really nice today, so I applaud you for that. You enter the room, you have to look interviewers right in the eye, you have to smile and have a firm handshake. And you do the same thing when you're exiting. Smile, firm handshake, and look them in the eye. Because this shows that you're confident that this is the job that you want. And it doesn't matter what happened to you throughout the day, you are really happy and eager to be here. And that is what you want to convey to them. And you do that through body language, through eye contact, and a firm handshake. So before any interview, you need to study and practice. And what do you need to practice? You need to practice potential questions in terms of your skills. And this is the secret ingredient here. I've mentioned to you, I've held many jobs, and one of the things that I found extremely helpful is what I've done is I've picked 5 specific skills that I know I'm really good at. And I focus on those 5 specific skills, and I practiced answering questions using those skills in particular. So, and the technique that I often use is called STAR. And STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. Again, situation, task, action, and result. So I'll demonstrate an example. So somebody might say, why do you think you're qualified for this job? Well, I'm going to focus on my written communication skills because I'm particularly strong in this. And so I'll start off with the situation. So I'll say, of course, this particular job that I'm applying for is really important. The really important piece is written communication skills. And I have excellent written communication skills. At my last job, here's the situation. At my last job, there was a memo that my manager wanted me to post on all the doors. She wrote it and she handed it to me. So that was the action. I had to post these resumes on the door. So what I did was I took a look at the memo and I didn't clearly understand what she was trying to convey. So I rephrased the memo and I put it in terms of who is this going to impact, when is this going to happen, and how is this going to happen. And I gave the memo back to her and asked her if I could email it as well as posting it on the door. The end result was that she was a little bit apprehensive at first, but the end result was that she got complimented for her communication style because it got sent to all the right people and it also got posted. So here again, I'm talking about the STAR approach. So I talked about the situation, what actions I took, and what the result was in terms of the particular skill that I was trying to convey. So if you practice these 5 skills that you know you're really good at, then it'll be really easy. You'll be able to say the skills that you have when you're being interviewed. So, and during an interview, I just want to talk a little bit about the types of questions that you typically will get asked. One is an icebreaker. Why do you want this job? How do you think you're the most qualified? The other 2 that are very important to think about when you're preparing for an interview are the behavioral type of questions and the situational type of questions. So the situational type of questions are usually, the reason why they're asking is because they either just let go of somebody or somebody just left and they're dealing with this particular situation. So you don't need to worry, you don't need to be stressed out at this point. What you need to think back is that STAR approach in talking about the particular skill that you think applies to this situation and just answer in your most practical way of how you handled such a situation in the past. Now, behavioral questions are a little bit trickier, but you should still use the STAR approach and always say what I did as opposed to what we did as a team or what my company did. In the behavioral questions, often what I find is that we look at the Myers-Briggs type of personality test. Are any of you familiar with Myers-Briggs? A few of you are? Okay. I find this extremely valuable in understanding who you are as an individual. You can find these tests online. You may think they're kind of hokey, but I got to tell you, there's a lot of truth in some of the things that they analyze. For example, when I'm interviewing for a position, somebody might talk to me, and when they're answering a question, they'll say, "I think," or they'll say, "I feel." There is no right or wrong in "I think" or "I feel," but I know that not 100% of the time, but most of the time, people who say "I think" are very logical, and they're good with numbers or analysis. When people are talking about "I feel," they're usually much better with people, and they can connect on an individual basis or in a team environment. So it's not necessarily a telltale of whether or not you're going to get the job or not, but it's really helpful for the interviewer to get to know who you are. So those are the kinds of behavioral type of questions that they may ask you. And of course, there's the skill testing question. I was interviewing for Bombardier once. I was offered the job many months after I was already employed with one of their competitors. But in the interview process, they asked me to build a car with another guy that was interviewing for the same job. So they gave me all these different parts and pieces, and I had to build the car and build a bridge so that the car could drive over the bridge. So you're really going to be prepared for anything. And skill testing questions are definitely a key component in many interviews that I've been in and that I've been on the panel in. So in summary, I've shared with you some techniques, some concrete examples of how to plan your career and how to ace the interview. And I just want to tell you, I'm an immigrant. I came to Canada about 25 years ago. I didn't know a word of English. I had no friends. My family moved around several times because it was hard to find affordable housing and work for my folks. And I wanted to feel happy and successful and had high hopes in this new country. And I think we all deserve happiness and success, and I really believe that we can all achieve it. And one thing that I'm amazed about is some of the techniques that I've told you about, so few people use them, or even know about them. So now that you know about them, I urge you and I challenge you to try them and to use them in your career planning and your job search. And I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope to hear from you about your success. Thank you.